Moments ago, President Trump spoke out after the overnight airstrikes against Iran. He wrote this on Truth Social. The United States will be hitting Iran, whose Navy, Air Force, radar, anti-aircraft and all other forms of defense, together with most of its offensive capability, are gone. We're going to hit them very hard tonight. At some point in the not-too-distant future, we will be taking Karg Island and other oil infrastructure points and assume total control of their oil and gas markets. Retired four-star General Jack Keane with me this morning. Is this it, General? Are we now beginning to finish the job?
Well, I think the president still wants to see if he can get a deal with these guys. And obviously, he's using leverage of military operations to try to achieve that end. And our operations have been limited. And what do I mean by that? We've gone after their air defense systems, which would be the first thing we would do in any event, and a lot of their radar systems, et cetera. But what we have not gone after is their offensive missiles, their drone inventory, and obviously their infrastructure. He's mentioned it, energy infrastructure, but industrial-based infrastructure. And we obviously have not gone into any of the organizations that sustain the regime, to include IRGC. And the Israelis are not involved. So major combat operations, what the president is talking about, and he did it today, and you're referencing it, he's willing to go there.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt about that, and he's made a public statement to that fact. So this is, I think the public statement is also added leverage for him in terms of making the deal. Here's the issue I see with the deal. They went to a ceasefire on April the 8th, ostensibly because the Iranians said, hey, we'll open the straits in 2 weeks. Here we are 2 months, no straits open, despite the fact we are secretly moving, some modest amount of vessels through there. So here we are 2 months later, and what have they done in that 2 months? Violated the ceasefire time and time again. Fired at us, fired at U.S. bases, fired at our allies in the region, and unleashed the Hezbollah under a ceasefire to routinely, systematically, almost every day attack into northern Israel. That's their behavior. So I'm looking at this deal and saying to myself, even if they sign, as the president indicates, on a dotted line, won't they stall the implementation of that? And won't they cheat dealing with the implementation of that? And you're nodding yes.
Yes, they will.
And because we know it.
We expect them to.
Yeah. So I still think the preferred option here is to recognize who we're really dealing with here. And we're never going to make the perfect deal with these guys because they're not going to implement it. Let's get on with the 10 to 14 days that we need to finish them militarily. And yes, the president is focusing on what would cause economic collapse of the regime, Karg Island.
Yeah. He says, actually, he told Fox and Friends this morning, he said his preference has always been to take Karg Island, but he doesn't know if America has the stomach for it. What does that mean?
Well, he has two choices. You can destroy that distribution point. Right now, for our audience to understand, the blockade is shutting Karg Island down. That's their major distribution point. So blockade, no tankers can go in there and get anything because we stopped them from getting through the straits. So the president's choice is, does he destroy that infrastructure or does he take control of it? He would like to take control of it. And what he's thinking is the model that we have in Venezuela. We have taken control of Venezuelan oil.
Yep.
And how it's distributed and who gets it and who doesn't get it, the United States is making that decision in conjunction with the government. Here, I think the United States and the people would have no problem with it whatsoever because it's only going to be temporary. It will force the collapse of this regime and we'll have someone else to deal with like we have in Venezuela.
Would it force the collapse of the regime?
In time, yes.
If we control that oil and gas, just control it, it's ours.
They have no income whatsoever then at that point. And listen, I'm talking about full-out military operations that go after, take away all the rest of their offensive weapons capability. You can't get every one of them, but get most of it all. And also go after all the organization that's sustaining the regime. Make that very, very weak. Make them vulnerable to the collapse of the regime. So militarily and economically, both things combined, we can force that collapse eventually in time, yes.
Do you think decapitating the Revolutionary Guards, killing them in their bunkers, you think that's in the cards?
We will do everything we can to, if we go back to major combat operations, to take the leadership down, just as we remember, we began the war doing that. Yeah. In conjunction with the Israelis. We've been sitting here for 2 months doing what on our side? Gathering intelligence. We know a lot about what they've been doing for these 2 months. We know where they've moved their ballistic missiles and their launchers to and other things. And obviously we know what their leaders are doing. What have their leaders done? They've done the same thing that they did with their missiles. They've dug deeper to get beyond our capability of our bombs. But yes, we can. It's not just the leaders, it's the infrastructure, the organizations that sustain them. And you start fracturing them and taking them apart, they don't trust each other. You know, the regime appears strong from the outside until it's not. And these things usually happen quickly. But when you're looking at it, it looks like they're going to be there forever. But it's usually not the case because they're crumbling inside and we can't see it.
Good. General, always a pleasure. Thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, great talking to you.
Very important day, and we appreciate being here. Thanks a lot.